You have to admit, when you look at this glass, do you really want to stick a knife in there and spread it on toast? Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, I'm Jenna. I'm a Canadian who's been living here in Germany since 2014, and I've built up an entire program to help other expats and internationals relocate over on lifeingermany.com. Today, I'm gonna go on a trip down memory lane and talk about some of the weirdest things that I found on a German grocery store shelf when I first arrived. And then I actually had some fun with this, and I went to a couple grocery stores this week and actually took my time and tried to remember and reminisce about how weird some of this stuff was when I first saw it. And to be honest, some of this stuff is still super weird for me today. And some of them I actually managed to buy and try out myself to see whether or not they were good. Some of them I haven't gotten around to it yet, and some of them I'm just like, not for me, thanks. So let's go through a few of them today. If there's one that I'm missing or you think, oh my God, I can't believe she didn't include that, let me know in the comments. I absolutely love talking about the difference in food from here over to North America, because trust me, they can be very different. Before I jump into it, if you have watched any of my videos and you enjoy them or you like them or you're excited to watch this video, please show me some love, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. So I've talked about herring in a previous video, but there's another thing that I find super strange on the grocery store shelves, and that is Rollmops. And Rollmops is basically a pickled herring rolled up, stuffed with some sort of savory filling. Sometimes Germans eat it on Brötchen, on like a little breakfast roll. Other times they'll just eat it as is with a fork or a wooden stick, what have you. I find that in the north of Germany, a lot of the time they eat it as a lunch snack on this Brötchen. I have not tried it yet. It's not something that I can really bring myself to try. I have to be honest, just looking at it in the glass, it looks super slimy and really just not my thing. Another one I couldn't forget, and I have to say, I think this was probably the #1 thing on the grocery shelves here in Germany that absolutely freaked me out. I guess it's because it's something that we never see in North America, and that is meat or vegetable stuffed in aspic. And to be honest, I didn't even know what aspic was until I Googled it and figured out that it's actually this meat stock made gelatin that can then be filled with whatever you'd like, and then they cut it up into basically like meat slices, and it just looks so unappetizing. If you've tried it, let me know what you thought about it, but it just, the look of it, I can't bring myself to eat it. And what about this breakfast spread that they have here in Germany? We actually do have this like Leberwurst or whatever that we spread on toast sometimes in Canada. I know my mom really likes it. I don't know many people that actually eat it in Canada, but in Germany it's like one step further, where they've got so many different sorts of breakfast spreads, both sweet and savory, but this one is quite popular. This meat paste, a lot of times it comes in a tube, which I find a little bit more pleasing to the eye than something like this jar that I always come across when I'm searching around the store. I just have to say, like, you have to admit, when you look at this glass, do you really want to stick a knife in there and spread it on toast? And when we're talking about spreading stuff on toast, this is another one that I came across, and this is some sort of Brotaufstrich, so something that you can spread on toast from a Zuckerrübe, which is a sugar beet. And I thought, okay, it must be similar to Vegemite or Marmite or something like that, but those are more yeast spreads. This is like a sugar beet spread spread to put on your toast. I think it looks rather good. I'm going to give it a try soon. Is it worth trying? What do you think? And putting stuff in tubes is something I found to be very German from the get-go. It's always something that my family members and friends, when they come visit from North America, also mention when they get here. Is like, why is everything in a tube? You can find like mayonnaise in a tube, you can find mustard in a tube, sometimes you can find ketchup or this tomato paste in a tube, and you can also find Remoulade in a tube, which we'll get to in a second. But I took this video specifically of our Düsseldorfer mustard here called Löwensenf, And I just think it's super weird, but also really, really cool that everything is in a tube, because in Canada, I guess we just think of things that are in tubes are either, I don't know, like toothpaste. I don't know what else comes in a tube, but it's something that I never associated with food. So on the one hand, it is quite strange to me, but on the other hand, it's super practical, especially when you're using things like condiments like mustard, ketchup, mayo, or remoulade, because you can also take this with you to a barbecue. You can also keep it nice and cold when it's in this like aluminum tube. And I just think all in all, it's really practical, but kind of strange. So now let's talk about remoulade. This is something that I had never heard of before I moved to Germany. I guess it would be something similar to like a salad cream or something that you might find in America. You don't find it all that often in Canada. I think a lot of Canadians would really love remoulade when they tried it. It's definitely not my taste, but I also find it really interesting and somewhat hilarious the amount of remoulade that is consumed by the Germans that I know. I'm not saying all Germans go crazy about remoulade. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But everybody I know, all of my friends and family here, when we have a barbecue or we eat pretty much anything that is savory, they just like load the remoulade on top, like with fish or meat or veggie or whatever. It just, ooh. Ugh. It's good. It's okay. It's fine. It's a nice condiment. It's just definitely not my taste. So I wouldn't say it's weird, but I would say the amount of remoulade that people use, or that I've seen people use here in Germany, was rather strange for me. Here's another one, Würze. Or you would look at the glass and say, okay, Würze, what's Würze? You could even ask a German, what is Würze? And they'd just be like, spices? I don't know what you're talking about. The thing that I found super weird here is that they actually call this Würze Maggi. So when you ask for Maggi, even though Maggi is a brand, they're usually referring to this Würze, which is, it's basically a flavor enhancer that a lot of people use on top of meat or in a soup or in a sauce. It is good. It's like, I don't even know what to compare it to. I guess kind of like an entirely different version of soy sauce. It's probably a really bad comparison, but it's good. I just thought it was super strange that I looked all over the place for this Maggi, and then I started finding the brand everywhere, and I was like, okay, there's like 100 things that are called Maggi, so I don't really know what it is. And then I finally figured out this is what people were putting on absolutely everything here in Germany. I think on my first day of coming to Germany, I also noticed Schwipschwap right away. Why? Well, A, the combination of cola and orange pop, or orange soda, whatever you like to say, I found super, super strange, super weird. And then the name in general is just amazing. Schwipschwap. Like, this is like the funniest name, especially to a North American. You can try to say that one 10 times fast. Schwipschwap, schwap, schwup, schwipschwap. Anyway, I think Schwipschwap is relatively good. In general, I'm not really much of a soda pop fan, but it is really interesting, and it's a nice thing to try when you're here in Germany. And getting into the desserts, there is this candy here. I guess you could call it more of like a retro candy, but it's also still very popular today. A lot of kids have them on their like candy buffets at their birthday or whatever, and they are these like UFO saucers. Basically like just this like rice waffle coating, and then inside is filled with this like sour sugar of some sort. And so I just thought they looked really strange, but obviously I tried it right away because I'm a huge candy, a huge sweets fan. Also not really my thing, mostly because I find this like waffle, or I don't know if it's rice waffle, but like this like wafer around this sour powder to be a little bit strange. But I can imagine that if you've grown up with it and it's something that you had in your childhood, that you probably absolutely love it. And of course, after a very long grocery shop with a toddler, which trust me, was not easy, especially managing to like film little snippets for you of each of these foods or drinks so that I could explain it to you properly. So I told him he could pick whatever he wanted in the store, and it just so happened that he picked something that I've never purchased before. I've seen it before, but I also found it to be so strange. And here in Germany, I find this Abendbrot culture, or a lot of the time in Germany, I should probably explain that in English, they eat a warm meal at lunch, and then in the evening they'll have a sandwich. So they'll have maybe a piece of bread with some butter, some meat and some cheese, and that's it. Anyway, I find because of this Abendbrot culture, they tend to have such a wide assortment of different types of cheeses, different types of meats, and there just so happened to be one that was in the shape of a bear here in this supermarket, and he saw it right away and was like, "Mommy, I want it, I want it." So we bought it, we took it home, and he had a little bit of a taste test too. So we wanted to figure out, was it weird or was it really not that weird? What do you think?
Yeah, not yucky.
Is it yummy?
No, yeah. Not yucky.
It's not yucky? Oh, good, I'm glad. I have a lot of fun filming these types of videos, so if you have more inspiration for me, send it on over my way. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. Und wie immer, vielen, vielen lieben Dank und bis später.